They turned out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Moonlight Tim. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, and hello, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone out there.
Good October.
Happy October, too. It's nice to be
I
here.
love October so much.
It's been October since our last episode, too.
I know, but it
for us
feels
recording, this
like
is
fall for real.
I know. It really changed on a dime here in LA.
2 days ago or something like that. I just suddenly was like, oh.
Yeah.
Slept with the window open last night.
We got to finish saying hello to who we're saying hello to, Tim.
Who?
Everyone listening.
Oh, hi, listeners.
Do you want to tell them what the show is?
The show that we're creating right now?
Yes.
It's called Dismembering Horror. It's a podcast show where myself, Tim Aslin,
and myself, Ryan McDuffie,
we dismember a horror film every week. We talk about what worked for us and what didn't work for us, and then we talk about some things of note, and then we make some RecommenDEADtions. That's what we call our recommendations, which now doesn't sound like a real word to me anymore.
Because we're just so casual with it. Oh, yeah,
that?
What's your recommendation? Oh, yeah, when I recommended this. It's pretty fluid.
And since it's October, we decided to do the Psycho movies. And
yes,
so we
everyone.
started in and did Psycho 2. That's this week. And it's so good.
Okay, Tim, I kind of lost y'all there in wrapping it up voice mode. So I want to reiterate. We're doing something very special for this month of October. I'm very excited about. It's the first of 4 episodes covering a series, which is what we determined could be a special something to do. So today's episode is all on Psycho 2. Then after that, you might guess we're moving on to Psycho 3. And then after that is Psycho 4, the beginning. And then we're going to wrap it up for releasing on Halloween an episode on the original 1960 Psycho, which will be kind of an experiment for us because it's while this podcast is really about dinging up maybe some of the more, I don't know, trying to have conversations about things that interest us, which largely is dependent on not a lot of conversations having been done on them before. Certainly Psycho has had a lot of conversations already.
Undoubtedly.
But we've had some requests for it, so we're going to give it a shot, see what happens. See what we can add, if anything, to said conversation.
A lot of hot air.
Which, Tim, I guess in not our defense, and whoever is telling us that they want to hear it, there's something to, like, I get this when I listen to our friends' retro reviews. I really think there's something inherently to just you're going to be somewhere different in history, like, to keep it going, even though it's been done to death. Like, a lot of what we're thinking of,
I get it.
what has been done to death, we're thinking of, like, documentaries on AMC in the early 2000s, you know? Yeah. And and then there's, other examples too, more recent, but just might as well, actually check up with our 2019 perspective.
I think what you're trying to say is that our opinion is super valid and needs to be heard out in the world.
Maybe I'm more just telling ourselves that our opinion isn't any less than it. We're so worried about people thinking that we think our opinion is more that we get so caught up in it treating ourselves that it's less. So whatever.
So we're going to give it anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I love these movies. You're going to learn about that as we go on Psycho 2. Anything else to add before we get into it here? Tim just shot a movie this last weekend.
I did, yeah. In
your podcaster here's other lives where filmmakers were coming at with from that angle. Did it go well, Tim? Can you be quick?
It was insane. 4 days. We had to deal with weather delays. We had to deal with just the insanity of trying to shoot 25 different setups in one day. But had some delays. Had to deal with the sun. Like, we were in a canyon, so the sun, we got less sun than we want, right? Because it comes up late and goes down early. So it was scary. We got the last shot on the busiest day, 5 seconds before the shadow, like, of the sun ruined the shot. Mm-hmm. And I was like screaming at everybody. I was like, the sun's going down.
But you got the shot.
We've got 30 seconds.
You did it.
Yeah, but we did it. And it's a huge relief because I've spent about a year prepping for this one.
Cool.
And now it's in the can.
Keep us posted when it premieres
Absolutely.
anywhere, somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
Somehow. Okay, about to do our trailer here, but the last thing is just to keep your attention for all 4 episodes, listeners. I called Tim Moonlight Tim at the beginning of this show, at the head of our show here. Now, that is a roundabout reference to the series being discussed, but to figure out what it means, if you can't figure it out on your own, you're going to have to wait till our 4th episode on the original Psycho. We'll play it as our outro music for that episode. How about? Nice. And explain it then.
Sounds good.
All right.
Little riddle.
Great. Here is the trailer for Psycho 2.
I have a petition here signed by 743 people against Norman Bates' release.
Madam, please sit down. This matter is being represented by the district attorney.
Norman was not convicted of murder. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Don't you realize they're going to release a homicidal maniac?
You to sit down, Mrs. Loomis.
It's all too obvious. Our courts protect the criminals, not their victims.
Norman Bates is judged, restored to sanity, and is ordered released forthwith.
It's 22 years later, and Norman Bates is coming home.
I own a motel not too far from here. And you'd be welcome to spend the night in one of the empty rooms if you'd like. Good night, Mary.
And he's back in business.
Who is this? My mother is dead.
That's a little misleading.
What?
Having the music from the first one in the trailer.
Okay, keep in mind, Tim, when I edit these, I'd only put in like the first minute.
Oh.
So what?
Okay. Well, they put in the music from the first one in the trailer at the
Sorry, I didn't mean to snap it. It's just
How
I
dare
always
you.
get, whenever you pick up referring to something like that's of the trailer ending, I'm always just like, what am I going to do? Am I going to just have the last minute of the trailer this time? Am I going to...
Just go with it.
Okay, so then what Tim was referring to was at the end of the trailer, which I'm guessing I'm going to edit so you didn't just hear.
Yeah.
It uses the original Psycho music.
Yeah.
Ring, ring, ring,
Yeah.
ding, dong,
Something
ding,
I
dong.
dearly missed. Because it's so good. I'll just have to go watch the first one in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Or we could go today to the New Beverly's showing it.
I don't have time for that.
All right.
It's tempting, though.
Yeah. Have you seen it in theaters?
No.
Oh,
That would be awesome.
I saw it at a double screening with
I saw the
Freaks at midnight, a midnight screening.
I saw the remake one in the theater.
That's not what I had. That
I know.
doesn't-
That's as close as I've gotten.
Seeing the titles Psycho on the big
yeah,
screen.
exactly. Cool, dude.
Okay.
Well, how'd you feel?
Well, how I felt for our rating system, would I avoid it? Stream it, rent it, or buy it? Tim, I want to own the collection of these films.
Wow. Okay.
This is a buy it for
Right
me.
out the gate. We've only seen one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen them all.
I know.
For some, my background of my history with these films is, well, I mean, like any film buff, loved the original, but it was last Halloween when I sat down and watched all the sequels.
Oh, yeah.
Something was calling me about them. I think there's been an increased interest, kind of a la Exorcist 3, of people rediscovering it or saying, hey, maybe this one's actually better than people, you know, I don't know. Or maybe it's less better or worse, but more just not kind of discussed at all.
I don't think I saw the third Exorcist.
Well, let's check it out.
Huh.
Maybe we should do that one.
Last Halloween, we watched Halloween, the new one, right?
Yeah, around that time.
That's right. Because I bought the original and watched it.
Didn't we see
That's
it
right.
on Halloween? I think for
Maybe,
you and I.
Yeah. I don't. Yes, I think we might have. Yeah, that's cool.
Forget.
Anyway, so cool. You're a buy. You're a hard buy.
So okay,
you're a
so
quad buy.
I really fell in love with the original. These sequels, like, only increase my love for the original, because it's all Anthony Perkins, it's all Norman Bates. I think as a whole, like, well, we'll get into this one. They do this one, yeah, it does a really good job of using. I mean, God, I just don't want to get into what worked. How do I put it in summary? 22 years later, it's like a great jumping off point. It doesn't feel like it's too sacrilegious for me. Like it's like chronologically removed enough. But here's the thing, like I love horror clearly, and I think Norman Bates is my favorite like character in any, or if you want to call him horror villain, protagonist, and whatever, centerpiece character in any horror film or franchise. And maybe and that's because of a character study reason. You know, it's endlessly just fascinating to me. And I can't really think of, even outside of horror, like who I'm more fascinated by, actually.
Wow. Willard?
You're right. No, but I mean,
I get what you're saying.
Maybe that's, what we were saying, like with that, Willard is kind of coming off of this, though. And I always like to say, though, the original is something, the purest, the most potent, yada, yada.
Right.
So it's got it going on for me in this one. And I'll get into more reasons why it worked for me as we continue into what worked. So
I would be... I'm a rent. It's worth it to me to rent this. I'm not a buy. Well, there's kind of like 3 reasons why I'm not a buy that we'll get into. But I liked it. It's fun.
Yeah.
That world is great. So I'm just excited to keep going into, like, see where, like, how much more, like, further are they going to go into that world, and like where and how. So yeah, I think it's cool.
I know, I'm already excited for watching the third one.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, how would we summarize it?
Well, like you said, 22 years later, Norman gets miraculously released from the insane asylum, which I think is pretty amazing.
I want to push back on your miraculously. I think 22 years is a lot of time.
That's true. That's true, but he killed a lot of people.
But like, as he said, like in the trailer we just watched, and I think that's an actual thing to, when you're clinically insane, it's not like this entity Norman Bates did it. It's like that's sort of the paradoxical, horror of this story, a lot of it, and how our system tries to deal with that. And
does redemption, is redemption possible?
Oh,
internal redemption or external, I think it's really cool. So he gets out and he goes back to his house, which maybe not the best place for him.
That is what the social worker Robert Loggia says. Yeah, are you sure you wanted to be doing this?
Exactly. And then Dennis Farina, what's his last name? Dennis Farina? The guy from Hill Street Blues or whatever it was.
Dennis Franz?
Franz, yeah.
Not Lou Farina, the whole...
Yeah, right. So Dennis Franz is just a fucking dirtbag working the motel now.
Yeah, he's turned his once, beautiful little motel.
Yeah.
No stain in history whatsoever.
Right.
Into a drug-laden hookup sort of seedy area of whatever small township they're a part of.
Yeah, and so... It's really just, the story is Norman trying to literally put his life back together. And, we just sit there waiting for, like, the penny to drop.
Yeah. And I guess it's a story of, it's sort of a give take of sort of what are outside forces actually propelling him to go insane again.
Yeah.
And what is his own internal, maybe just dormant insanity that's coming out.
Right.
And like, how are those interacting? Which one's to blame?
And then people start dying. And we have to figure out what's going on. Is it because the setup, coming out of Psycho, where we've been so, the reveal of the original is so strong to be like, oh, he's so crazy that he doesn't even really realize that he's taking on his mother's persona. And so that that essentially that lost time for the Norman character then becomes the big sort of setup for this. When anything happens, we have to at least acknowledge that maybe he's the one doing stuff, and he doesn't even know it. And that's a really fun setup. And then there's some twists and turns that kind of play off of that, which is great.
And if you have any interest in watching this, I'd say, yeah, we're going to get into these twists and turns, we're going to be talking about openly. So, maybe watch it first. Yeah, be prepared. Yeah. We're getting into all the twists and turns here, which we do openly on the show. But we try to mention something when it's one that we think is, well, we can both agree it's worth renting. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely go watch this before you listen to the rest of what we're about to say.
Yeah, great.
But that's, antics ensue.
Yeah. Okay, that was good. So should we get into it? What worked?
Do we have to do anything else?
No.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, what worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
I mean, I guess what I just said, the setup, coming off of like one of the greatest horror films of all time, that's helpful.
Well, and like what I already said, like that 22-year gap is just where I can buy into it. Like you have multi-generational separation at this point. And it's sort of, I mean, it's super interesting to have the Vera Miles character, the sister from the original, playing the same part coming back.
I think that's really important to making this movie work.
Yeah.
Is having her right up at the front being like, no fucking way.
And she seems, though, like in that setting, she seems like the sort of unhinged, crazy one. She's like, okay, I mean, when you kind of zoom out too, it does seem that way. Like, okay, well, this woman spent 22 years of her life on some vendetta against someone who genuinely wants to get better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she killed her family.
Right. To me, I'm like that, having that right at the top, I'm like, I'm with her. Like, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, of course. I'm like, yeah, you're coming off as a little over the top, but you're so justified in my mind. Like, I'm like, fuck yeah, you would be. I'd be pissed too. I'd be like, no, don't let this motherfucker out. He killed my sister.
But I mean, I really get on board though, and like about it what the film is doing as far as our relation, how we feel about each of them. I mean, you're gonna feel how you feel, but I feel like it does reverse the hero villain.
Right.
Like Norman's so sympathetic. Like he just wants to work at a diner. He knows about his problems. He carries himself differently. He's like, I understand now what I was going through. Like everything, he's saying all the right things, and more so than that, actually feels that.
Well, and that makes him. It really does turn him more into a tragic character. And that, like, sitting there watching this guy who on the outside, at least, or ostensibly, as far as we can tell, really does want to be a good person. And he just has sort of a conflict or an affliction that may or may not rise to the surface again. And that's really sad in a way. It's like, it's almost sort of like if somebody's, battling alcoholism and they've been like sober for a long time and dedicated to that, and then they fall off the wagon. It's like, you're not like, you asshole. You're like, oh shit, I'm sorry that that's where you're at.
Right. So to get into what's going on too, which we glossed over in the summary, the spoilers, it's like, so you have, and I'm just Vera Miles' character, Lila Loomis.
That's right.
So it's like to what you just said, so an alcoholic, it's as if you have Lila Loomis and her daughter in cahoots with her, leaving like bottles of alcohol around, saying, "Drink me, Norman, drink me."
No shit.
That's so messed up.
Fucked up.
Yeah. And what you said,
that's evil shit. So that, like, making that the sort of the evil of the movie is fucking awesome.
Well, like what you just called it, a tragedy, that for me that's what grabs me, I think, so much about this sequel is the horror and just how sick you feel watching it. Because the first one, it's such a great standalone, just like horror story.
Right.
This is great beginning and twist, blah, 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 short story. But this, it turns it into a tragedy, which with, yeah, as I just said, so the twist is we have, one of the two twists is that we have Lila Loomis, and we didn't really mention the summary, but a big part of the summary that we should have mentioned is we have Meg Tilly as Mary, who turns out, who's basically like is befriending Anthony, it's his Norman Bates. And we think it's like Norman Bates is kind of stepping over his boundaries, getting her to stay with him or whatever, or being a little weird, and it works out and she's desperate. But actually she's there deliberately to mess with him on behest of her mother.
And she, you know, to her, I guess, character's credit, she has sort of a change of heart as she gets to know Norman, which then pushes us further into the sympathy of Norman because we're seeing it through her. Yeah. Where she's like, hang on, he's not really that bad, and actually what we're doing is way more psychotic than he is, and that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. We're gonna be all over the place with this, but you just got me thinking how she sells that so well, which then makes me want to talk about the casting and the performances. Like, she's perfect casting for that person who kind of, you could see being caught up with whatever ruse, whoever they're close to, really getting kind of, you know, feeling that immediate sympathy for them. So having the mother be like how tortured she is and we have to do this, I can see you're getting caught up with that just as much as I believed her just really feeling for Norman when their scenes together.
She's a really interesting type, I guess, or casting. Yeah. Like, she's got this dual nature of seeming very vulnerable at times or even naive at times, and then also at the same time like quite sort of strong-willed and like assertive. Yeah. And it's this weird, and
almost all-knowing, like I just trust her as a person, you know?
It's a very interesting character, and they just found a really good person to be in this role because it fits and it creates this ambiguity for a lot of the movie where you're like, I like her, but should I like her? Yeah. Like, what is going on? Is she like, are we allowed to trust her or not?
And then by the end, we're really just like, she's got her own whole host of issues too. Yeah. I mean, with her mother. Makes sense.
Well,
which is cool. It makes it all, I love that about that. It just makes it all interconnected, like this sort of story with all these branches going out of just this one, you know, what would you call it? And that's sort of another deeper theme of this. Is
kind of the spider web of all of these things.
Well, the deeper theme of like, where is the evil originally rooted? Is it just in his circumstance and how he was raised? Is it just which we'll get into like with the other sequels, is the belief that there's just something wrong with him.
It is a little bit, I mean, in a weird way, we're kind of, it's the whole, not premise, the whole umbrella of like nature versus nurture in a way. Yeah. We're sort of saying like, if he doesn't have these outside things, you know, pushing him, would he be okay? Or is it just inherent to him? Is he just going to, you know, fall off the ledge eventually? Yeah. Because that's just who he is. And that dance of those two things throughout the movie is actually really fun. Because there's a point where it's like, he is definitely hallucinating that somebody is calling him. Right. You know what I mean? And he starts to slip into like his own psychosis.
I think maybe why I like this movie is because, I mean, that's so, I wouldn't even say any of this stuff. It's not that it's not up for debate because there's a clear answer. I think it's not up for debate because there's no clear answer kind of thing. Right. But the answer is a combination of them all kind of thing. But the element that I'm always attracted to or like that maybe doesn't get talked up as much in sort of nature versus nurture, or in just stories like this of horrible doings and happenings committed by people, is how they are really a mirror towards everything else. They are doing it like as a reactionary in a way. Like, so in this film, we just see Norman's from the get-go kind of being almost like, it's great because then we see it's sort of we see a contrast between the people at the diner who are like, we welcome you back, Norman, hope he's doing good, and then immediately then you also have like the guy Dennis Franz coming back at the diner and calling him the titular, he's a psycho,
right,
he's a psycho,
which is a psycho thing to say.
Yeah,
to make a scene like that, that's what fucking like assholes do,
right?
Like fucked up sociopaths do that shit,
right? So it's just I don't know, it's like subtler forms of sociopathic tendencies that that is then what snaps Norman into the killing. But it is it's the gray area of the fragility of our psyches in general. Like we're all, one moment away from just a fucking complete break. Yeah. It's just how, how thick is the glass for you? Mm-hmm. And how hard is the force smashing up against the glass? It's like, yeah, I loved it when everybody's somewhere on that spectrum. When we see Norman being stronger, though, where he's like, he's just so mad at Dennis Franz when he sees him, like the state of the motel, but he doesn't, kill him. He's keeping it together. He fires him.
He keeps it together when Dennis Franz is like in the diner flipping out, and he like could just grab a knife and kill him.
Oh, right. That was a good moment.
He like backs right down, and it's like, holy shit. Good for you, Norman.
Well, to sort of tie it back to overarching umbrella of just going through the cast and the performances, I already kind of touched on it, but Anthony Perkins, the way he's playing this as Norman Bates 22 years later, I think is done so well. Like I believe it. I buy it that he's like, I know about myself now. Like him and Robert Loggia, who's his caseworker, Dr. Bill Raymond, you can see like their whole just kind of relationship. Like you buy that there's this 22-year thing that's happened between them, really working hard together.
His Perkins is doing a couple really to me pleasing acting things that are super subtle, but like really they're unsettling. So I don't know if this is just who he is or if this is like a thing he's like, I'm going to do this thing, but he doesn't really close his mouth. So his mouth is always just a little bit open, and it's very unsettling to me. Like that's not usually how people exist. And so when he smiles and even when he talks, he's sort of one half of his mouth is just slightly open, and he's kind of coming out through that one half. Ooh. And he smirks with one side of his mouth a lot. Yeah. It's freaky as fuck. And he does a couple eye sort of like little like flitting of the eye stuff and like little twitchy sort of look over.
Well,
like it's so fucking good.
It's so perfect for Norman, and why I think one of the things I just love about his character so much is you see like that little smile that's almost always there. It's kind of this almost like all you got to do in the face of horrors of the world is just smile back, you know, which is like,
it's like the Chaplin song
where that isn't true, you know, in order to smile, you have to do it in face of death, not in in denial of it, I guess.
right.
In a sort of way. So it's almost a sort of a suppression of evils versus an acceptance of evils, where you just see this smile being put on, or like, and you said his twitches.
Oh, dude, so good. But it's like we as humans, like we kind of put masks on in certain scenarios that really defy our actual emotional state. You know, like something just in the world that really is really unsettling to me is there's certain people who their automatic defensive response to discomfort or like awkwardness is to smile or laugh, and I'm always like, ooh. Like, it's freaky because I know that that's a mask.
Awkward.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm always like, oh, I don't like that. It's like really unsettling to me because it's an add-on to how they're actually feeling. And it's like, ooh. So him doing it in this little sort of subtle like way is just fucking great.
Well, it's like indicative just his psychosis too, but more like, I don't know, but I say why he's one of those powerful, potent, sort of emblematic figures of this kind of killer psychosis, split personality psychosis in that sense. Because, like, Okay. Maybe this is better saved. I don't know. It's overall. We're talking about Psycho here. Maybe this is more for the first one, but like you have like Norman Bates. He's such like the likable kind of 1960 everyman.
Yeah.
Goss jolly, but like very super like approachable.
He might as well be Jimmy Stewart, right? Like
exactly.
He is the next sort of incarnation of that in a way.
Especially with the character's name being Mary in this, like It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, I just kept thinking Mary.
Yeah.
In my head.
That's
so that
funny.
it's a Wonderful Life guy and view of the world. Sort of like there's always a horror that exists where like even though It's a Wonderful Life is great, I think it's a great film. I know you've maybe not as crazy about it, Tim, or haven't seen it or given it a fair shake, or you just don't.
I know what it is.
We shouldn't get into that. Yeah. But sorry,
I think it is a horror film.
Yeah. No, just the perspective at any given point in history when a nice thing is shown, there's also a flip side to that we have to like either accept or ignore at any given point.
Yeah.
And so something about like that switch at that time of like 1960, seeing Norman Bates at the ending, saying, when even swat a fly, like that far deep his psychosis is, and then this getting all the mother stuff too. I'm sorry, I meant to go make more of a point with that, but
well, I mean, I think it's just sort of a testament to how rich of a character he is, in the first place, and then they've taken that and just stepped on the gas.
Right. I guess
how do we get this character involved in something that A, makes us uncomfortable, but B, makes us like feel like we want to root for him.
Right.
Because it's hard to root for him after the first one. Right? And they've done a really smart thing of being like, let's get some separation and let's kind of turn the tables on what it means to be quote unquote psycho.
Yeah.
And how gray that can really be.
Right.
That's great, because suddenly we're going, fuck, we're all like,
and
we're all fucked up.
I think that's where I was going with that. All was just, exactly. Is it we're all fucked up. There's always like an element of veneer, and that's just a human thing. And how we're dealing with that at any given time can be exploited.
Yeah.
For horror.
Should we talk about some sort of more technical things?
Yeah, or anything else with the cast? Robert Loggia is always great. We talked about Meg Tilly. Dennis Franz was very good as a likable guy. And then all we really had left was Emma Spool. Oh, the sheriff.
The sheriff was fun.
Which I'll mention in another section. And then Vera Miles just being mad.
Yeah, I will say, like, I think having her in the opening scene, there was a moment where I was like, I wonder if that's it for her. Like, she's not going to come back. And then as we progressed a little bit and there's some intrigue, like something's mysteriously up, I was like, oh shit, she's coming back around. Like, she's going to be behind this. So, and that's mostly true, but not entirely true. So, yeah.
Maybe this is a sort of in between. You said you want to get to some technical stuff. This is kind of a segue level thing that I liked. What worked for me. That's what we're doing here.
All right.
But it really delivered for me in kind of like a simple way too, as well as all the thematic things of just kind of like how a sequel expands a world. Like just getting to kind of be in the kitchen for the first time that we never saw the original, or getting like a different perspective on the house. Like there's that high angle, interesting shot of it.
Some of the stuff I want to talk about, because that shit is good.
Yeah, and just some shots around the house of like, oh, there's the piano there. It felt true to the spirit and like the bones of Psycho.
But an expansion of that. That's what I think is so cool, is that they did say, like, they could have just been like, let's just match everything.
Right.
And stay in that zone. And they're like, no, there's more. Let's broaden what we know about this world.
Right. And which is like hit or miss, but
it can be
sequels.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say hit or miss. It's either completely overlooked or done well, almost.
Right. But I got the sense of the house was I mean, like there's a point where I'm like, this fucking house is like, the architecture is fucking completely insane.
Yeah.
There's like all these different fucking levels going on the second floor. There's like a landing, and then if you go left, it's like one level, which we've seen from the original.
Yeah.
But if you keep going straight, you go up like one step to a landing, to 3 steps, and then turn around and you're 3 or so feet higher. And then that's this sort of like midway, almost attic level. It's like a mid-floor.
Yeah.
It's so fucking disorienting and weird. And like, there's that whole sequence where Mary is like, I think she's cleaning up the blood that came out of the toilet and realizes that hole in the wall is there and somebody's looking through it. And like, she runs out, and it's like, the directionality of things are so disoriented, because you think, oh, you just run out and go around the corner because it's that shared wall. But it's like she has to go out and go left and then right and then downstairs and then around.
Down a few stairs, that's it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like 3 steps.
Yeah.
And then go right and then into the room, and you're like, I don't even know what fucking direction I'm in.
Really
it's
cool.
So smart.
It works on that psychological, not only just to kind of in that Shining way of like, where are we?
Yeah.
But also just like that room that's the mother's nest, kind of overlooking everything. It's neat that it's kind of a few steps down or whatever. It gives it this sort of air of separateness and
it's really freaky.
Yeah, it's like you descend into it while at the same time it's a perch. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, it's just cool. I wonder. I don't really know much about the sort of the actual set, but the house, obviously, we've like gone on the Universal tour and you go by it. Are they filming in that house, or is it a totally different set?
I'm pretty sure, right?
That's fucking awesome.
Because I mean, it's all.
I mean, they're certainly doing exteriors
because it's not like it wasn't built as a house; it's built as a set that also functions. You know,
yeah. So it makes me think that like the original house was probably pretty rudimentary in terms of what they built inside of it.
Yeah.
And then they just were like, let's just fucking get nutso and add a bunch of
Let's figure that out for sure
shit.
by the next episode.
Yeah. It's cool though. I really like it.
Also, like talking about the layout of the house, how isn't it kind of like in Texas Chainsaw of I was gonna say how the kitchen is behind the stairs. In Texas Chainsaw, it's this little where he hangs her up on the hook is behind the stairs. But something just about that like hall next to a staircase going up. And I think just because there are other connections between this and Texas Chainsaw is always interesting. Something creepy about that. Yeah. And get into like the kills maybe that they get a good staircase fall at this one that utilize the unique architecture of the house to fall precisely on a knife. Like on hitting a banister. Oh my God.
Yeah. At one point too, like we get to sort of expand on the basement and see how, because I think if I remember right, when we see the basement in the original, we kind of only really see it from like a reverse shot. And that's really it. We get it from all sorts of angles here, and like there's multiple ways to get in. There's windows. There's like the double door storm doors from outside. There's like
the whole little. I love seeing the whole little like hideaway stone. If it's like a stone ground.
Yeah, exactly. There's a coal chute. Like it's just fucking. They just went nuts. They're like, let's just put everything in there.
Yeah,
it's fucking great.
Well, it's kind of almost like, oh well, there's stuff here. What was it before? I don't know. It just sort of again, it's building on it. Yet it's also just what was there to begin with too.
Right. And I think that I guess what I'm sort of broadly pleased about is that there's all these iconic images from the first one. And I think you could make the mistake of just trying to sort of be, what do you call it when you're just copying the thing and just sort of doing a rehash of it. But they acknowledge and then move further on it.
Like true sequel, no requill or reboot or anything.
So we do get the opening scene is the shower scene from the original, But then later in the movie, when Mary is staying in the house, we get match shots from that original shower scene. The angle underneath the shower as it turns on, and like the side angle of the water coming out, like all of those are match shots, and that's really cool. But then we have a whole different scene of her in the shower, and it doesn't, it's not just like, oh, here we are in the shower, and we're just gonna have the scene again. We get a different scene, and that's great.
Yeah.
Same with like the kids coming into the basement. It's like the kid finds the light bulb that got splashed with blood. I think it's splashed with blood. Maybe it's not. It's just knocked. That's right. It's just knocked around in the very end of the first one. And it's like, yeah, there's the light bulb. It's pleasing, right? But they don't like make a thing out of it.
Yeah.
They're just acknowledging it. And so there's something really nice to me about like the acknowledgement and moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the house as a whole, too, it's sort of like, it got me thinking, you say that light bulb is there as a connection to the past. And that's what's so neat as, an acknowledgement, this is all the same thing. Our ghosts in our... I was going to say ghost in our closet.
Yeah.
That's not
fucking those closet ghosts. The worst. They're just trying to get a jacket.
But just,
because it's October.
I want to mention the house itself. Like, it's just this symbol. It's this heavy, heavy symbol for so much. Like, what exactly? I mean, his past, a psychosis. It's its own character. It feels like almost sort of like...
the realm of his mother.
Right. It's almost like where is this coming from? Circumstance. What is that? What are the other ones they say? Like this evil comes from, circumstance. Not circumstance. We were just saying them. Nature and nurture.
Oh, sure.
You think of your home as a sort of emblematic of their nurture. What's your space that you're in?
Oh, well, we talked about this in Eyes of My Mother.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same thing. It's like left in the wrong, environment. Probably gonna not go great.
But to come back to it and just have the dust of everything still be circa 1960, and it also really, it was interesting for me, was like, oh, we think 60s are so separate, but having this be essentially 1980, it's 1983 is the movie, is 82 I guess is when it takes place, but it feels like, oh, it closes that gap between 60 and 80 for me, as sort of, oh, this was the same same world.
Yeah. I mean, in this sort of smaller town, not a lot has changed that much, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if the movie took place in like a metropolis, you would see that difference. But like if we went back to, where is she from? Phoenix or something in the original? Like if we went back to that city, it would be a completely different city, right? It's like the look would be different. It's just, that's the nature of cities, but it's not. It's small towns. Not a whole lot's changed. It's like the cop is like, yeah, I was there. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I loved about too, the connection to the original connecting their 1960 or early 80s. It was done in a way too with just the performances. I think, I don't know, there's something really interesting with Veer Miles's performance where you see it, where it's like we almost think of things as being more heightened or showy, if it's older, we're used to that for black and white. But I don't know, it was neat to sort of see what felt like still the original movie being done in this one and having it work.
Yeah.
Like it closed that gap for me that way too. Like something just about the feel, like you mentioned, the cop was like, oh, I was there, but just something about the cops in uniform. It just felt psycho-y and connected me back to the past.
Oh, well, and also, this reminds me of when they're pulling the car out of the swamp or whatever. It's the exact same shot.
It's like, here we are again.
Yeah. It's just, it's continuing in the same world that we've built. And being true to it.
Yeah.
And that's really, pleasing.
But with this new lens, the world's different. There's, people doing drugs in the motel now. There's no longer this leave it to Beaver veneer we can hide behind or hide it behind. And then even though like more in the filmmaking too, or is this sort of a head trip on doing something in 82 that was started in 60 of like the Yeah, I mean, I love, of course, Bernard Herrmann's score from the original, but I can see why it wouldn't match for this story. It's different. Like you said, this is a tragedy, and that was a standalone horror story. Like the Jerry Goldsmith score for this one, which is right either on the heels, one direction or the other, of Poltergeist. Like you can hear it's so similar. But something about that sort of what was 1982, I think, standardized Spielberg-influenced aesthetic of a kind of, this is a normal. I don't know. It was really neat to see that. I don't know. Again, bridging that gap for me between the original and okay, here we are, 1982 film land.
Yeah, it's cool. I feel like other than the I don't know. The camera, like, it's an interesting thing because when you have these match shots and sort of homage shots, if you want, whatever you want to call that, you are also getting its own style. Like the direction and the sort of camera work in this is its own style. They're not doing what Hitchcock did. Yeah. But they're doing their own thing. And there's some fucking crazy stuff. That move out of the upper window when he falls asleep in the attic.
Oh, yeah.
Is fucking nuts. And it's so disorienting. And like, I'm not sure exactly. I almost think that there's a hidden cut in it. You come out of the window and you kind of cross the top of outside the window, there's like a little piece of gray roof. And I think that's a cut. Okay. And then they're on this crane. That crane. Way the fuck up. And they've just spliced it just right.
That was new, had just come out in time for this movie they were using.
Oh boy. That shot is fucking awesome. Yeah. Like it feels like you're gonna fall. And it's disorienting because it's at a canted sort of, it's a top down, but it's canted as well. Right. And the house is distorted because it's such a wide lens. Yeah. It's fucking crazy. So, I mean, apropos, I guess.
Yeah. No, it felt like, again, like, oh, this is, yes, I'm for sure looking at the Psycho house when you see that shot.
But that shot is not in the first one. You know what I mean? It's like, this shot is being like, this is our, take on this. We're doing our thing for this one, which is great. It's awesome.
Don't just do the same.
Yeah,
I know. And like when you were saying too, where it's a shot where it's like, oh, we see this object, or it's kind of a nod or something. Like, what is it exactly? It's so different. You can tell like this one just by continuing and exploring its own new themes and jumping off point, yada yada. It's like each of those. If we see a callback shot or an object or whatever it is, it's all of a sudden that's just loaded with new meaning. It's not just like in other things where we merely go, oh yeah, that's that. I remember that. It's not doing, you don't know South Park references, but the member berries.
Sorry, everybody.
The joke being like where we are now rather than actual valid like entertainment that has, rich with its own originality or meaning. It's nowadays it's all about what do we remember?
Right.
Ooh, I like that because I remember that. And that's the only reason I'm, paying to see the new Star Wars, whatever.
Yeah. It's like when you're in a group of friends that have known each other for a long time, the whole conversation is just references.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I remember.
There's zero originality to anything anybody's saying. It's literally just like segmented like words or lines from pop culture that people are just throwing out there.
So this, Psycho 2 is a good example of like where even though we're going, oh, I remember, it's not just that. It doesn't leave it at that. Yeah. It's expanding the ideas, the rich.
Yeah. I want to talk about the plan. Like the actual plan of the bad guys. Yeah. Because it's fucked up.
And then maybe that can lead us into the twist too, the final twist.
It's so good to have this be the thing. Yeah. Because there was a moment in sort of once Mary has shown up and they're just kind of coexisting for 10 minutes of the movie or something like that, where I was like, okay, like, what are we doing? Or like, where are we going? And is anything going to happen? And then suddenly it's like, you get a murder, you get another murder. And it's like the the feeling of getting knocked off our pins and going, there's more going on. I was like, ooh, shit. Here we go. Something's up. And it's so fucking pleasing. It's like, it's so twisted.
What is the it you're talking about?
That Lillian?
Lila.
That Lila is fucking literally, well, like planting notes and like
calling him on the phone.
Fucked up. Like, I love a prank. Don't get me wrong. But this is super dark.
And she's also having Mary like rearrange the room,
dude,
to like how it looked originally.
That is deeply fucking evil shit to fuck with somebody on that level.
To fucking Norman Bates. I mean, they're worried about him killing people. Like,
they're killing people.
Yeah.
To get him thrown back in jail.
Yeah.
That's so twisted.
Well, I like that as a critique of the idea of vengeance.
Right.
Or justice is maybe a sort of how you would justify vengeance even more, calling it that.
God, I just had a realization too. Having her end up buried in coal is sort of this kind of like, it's like a metaphor for like her heart having turned to sort of, dark.
Yeah.
It's cool. Her death is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
What was it, Tim?
I could not. There's not a whole lot of like graphicness in this movie. It's not particularly.
But you could still tell it was a product of its time.
But holy fuck, the psycho knife going into her mouth and out the back of her fucking neck. And after a pretty, like, the movie's kind of subtle and like, it plods along, not in a bad way, but it's got a pace to it. And then it's like, then that fucking shot, like the light hits the knife and it's like, whoop, right in. Holy fuck. I yelled really loud.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good.
Oh, dude. I loved it. Because, I guess by that point, because we hadn't seen anything terribly graphic, it wasn't trying to be a slasher. That moment is so over the top for what we've seen so far that it blew my mind.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Blew my mind.
And then Robert Loggia gets it good.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned that earlier. Yeah. He's the one who falls down the stairs because Mary thinks he's a bad guy.
Dude, that whole sequence where the plan is unraveling and nobody knows who's who and who's who to trust and who's the bad guy and who to go after.
Oh, it's tragic. Mary's just in the middle of it, just trying to like...
And that's
Norman,
what she gets. It's so fitting though, because like, again, it's the tragedy of these things where you fucked up. Like, you should not have gotten involved with the sinister fucking plan.
Yeah.
And watching her not be able to get out of it and not be able to defend her own shittiness and the confusion of it and like she gets what she deserves. It's in a way.
So kind of
tragically.
Yeah.
But
kind of perfect to see her character, like the trajectory of her sin being she's trying to make it all okay by dressing up as the mother.
It's like so misguided.
Ends up repeatedly stabbing Norman, just trying to keep him away, just trying to be like
so sad.
Just trying to stab your sanity back, but it's not working.
And him just continuing to move forward.
Yeah, just wanting
super
love.
Sad. Poor Norman. They did a good job of making him into this sympathetic person too.
And if we're kind of talking about some of the stuff going on in the ending here. One of my favorite moments in the movie was when he not that ending, but just kind of that end set piece we're talking about, when he's hearing his mother on the phone. And that's our first time seeing him do that, where we know there's no one on the other end.
Yes. That it's really sad.
Yeah.
I go, no, oh no.
I know. We thought like we saw opportunity in there for improvement. Norman.
Yeah, because he's been fucked with so much up to that point and he's right in basically being like, I'm being fucked with.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it just caves in, and he is in his psychosis again. And
we have, for the first time, we have someone else, Mary in this case, observing him listening on the phone. So we don't have any doubt on our end of like, is he doing it? Is he not? Nope, he's there again. There it is. Oh. And it's the mother. We see him. And imagine it also just from her point of view, he's hearing the mother convince him to kill her.
Right.
And just to be able to not say anything at that point. Oh, God.
Poor Norman.
I know.
He really got dealt a pretty rough hand here.
Yeah. You mentioned the pacing in passing. I loved it how it was like on the actual level of movie you see very rarely nowadays where and in mainstream films you don't see it where a film is actually allowed to like breathe and you're kind of have a moment with the character like and it actually just in that lets you really know who they are. So one of my favorites, 2 examples of that, was when he's looking at her use the phone, when Norman's looking at Mary talk on the phone, and he's sort of standing behind her and he's like awkward about it.
My God,
he's like so caught up in the, another person's here, I'm just helping her out, I don't want to be alone, that he like then gets stuck in the, wait, do I have to like give her some privacy here? And so he just kind of stands and watches her for like 5 beats too long. And then you kind of had that reversed when he's on the piano, I think in like the last chunk before it kind of all hits the fan, and Mary goes and like watches him play for a minute, kind of just not really letting him know that she's there. That's cool. Because observing them observe. That's what says a lot.
I think, it's we've mentioned this, I think, in the past where we've been like, dude, can we just get like 30 seconds with the character to fucking like check in?
Yeah. Where are we all at now?
Like, I need that. Like, I need those breather moments to kind of get in touch with the current state of affairs. And a lot of times like modernly, I don't think a lot of people are allowing for that. You know, whether it's because of the cut or what, like decisions to move things along or whatever. It's like, it's such a nice thing to get. This made me think of one other thing too in the structure of this movie, that they, thank fucking God, they didn't do the big switch of protagonist that the first one does.
Right.
Because I'm like, you worry that they're going to do something like that. And I had forgotten about it completely because this just does its own thing. Yeah. But now realizing like, man, they dodged a bullet. Because can you fucking imagine?
Yeah. That would have at that point been like it's a reboot, requel, whatever you want to call it. So good. But to finally get to the actual ending, Tim, you're talking about twists.
Yes, let's.
The big twist of this one was that... okay, bear with us here. No, hopefully you've seen it. You know what we're talking about. But it's the not coincidentally, I guess, the woman from the beginning who works at the diner turns out to be Norman's actual mother, who was in an asylum herself when she had Norman.
And gave Norman up to...
her sister.
Right, who is the mother from the first one.
Yeah. So it's like... And then once that's finally revealed, Norman then kills her with a shovel.
Oh, man, he hit her hard with that shovel.
So,
oh boy,
which was so great as far as his whole like talk about. I don't want to call it love-hate. I don't know, but I guess that is what it stems from, like relationship with his mother and the mother issues of that. It's like the mother still has total control over him, no matter who his mother actually may be. It's like he has this deep. It's like he has the complex despite any of the specifics, of like them always having the mother in his head, but it's more like a quote unquote the mother, at this point when it's sort of not consequential of necessarily who is the mother at any given point.
Well, it made me wonder too, and I'm still not really clear. Was Norman getting some phone calls from that woman? and some notes from her, or like I don't think it ever is really clear what's coming from who at a certain point.
I guess that actually is, a way to explain, he, like the note left at the diner could have been her, and she could have been in a sort of, unbeknownst to Lila, cahoots with Lila.
Right.
That makes sense.
It's never... I think you have to kind of watch it a few times to see if there's a little more clues as to distinguishing that.
Yeah.
But it's a mind fuck because it adds this other layer of whatever intrigue, I guess.
How he kills her, it's like this for him, like this ultimate, like this is the source of all my problems, my mother. I gotta kill her. Yet he, at the same time, is at behest of her, immediately puts her on the chair until we find out in the sequels, possibly forever dictate his actions again.
What I love about it is that it basically defines his root psychosis, which is the mother figure alive is not an acceptable reality. That in order for him to feel good, to feel like his version of normal is the 12-year-old act of giving her the tea, killing her, and then having the dead mother that he can embody. Mm-hmm. And having him walk up the stairs with her after killing her. So he just goes into a complete revivification of that event.
Yeah.
Give her the tea, kill her, take her up to her room, keep her there forever so that he can go back to his normal.
And protect her and protect himself from the outside world with its drugs and sex and all that. That's now at the motel.
Right. And so, I mean, I never really thought about this, but like maybe, I wonder if in the writing or the naming of Norman, if using norm as in normal, like using that root word is purposeful.
It's pretty good.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Talking again about to talk about the idea of the veneer and that effect on him of accepting evil versus denying it and all that good stuff. God, wait, what were you just saying?
The revivification of the mother. And how that his version of normal, his comfort is this particular construct. He needs that. That is his psychosis.
Oh yeah. What I loved how the part where what's her face? Forgetting all their names now. Sorry. Mary.
Oh right, Mary. Yes.
Where Mary's telling Norman, just remember the good things.
But that's just it. So this was one of the big revelations that I had as a person like realizing, you have your own experience, right? Your experiences sort of defines your normal, right? Like what's comfortable for you in your life. And much of that has to do with how you experienced life as a young person. Mm-hmm. So, if you grew up in a household that was super chaotic, that you develop to understand that as normal, and that becomes your comfort.
Yeah.
And so you will work to recreate that type of environment for the rest of your life because that's your normal.
Well, this is kind of like the ultimate story, too, of how conflict avoidant leads to conflict.
Right. Right.
It's like the other fascinating thing about it.
Yeah. So, like, that's what he needs. Mm-hmm. When all is said and done, he tried really hard to do the normal that is the world's idea of normal, and it just doesn't work. And in fact, the world made it impossible for him to have their version of normal.
Yeah.
Which is even weirder of a sort of head fuck.
What do you mean in this case?
Well, the world views this normal like you need to be we're letting you out of prison or whatever, the asylum, and we're giving you the opportunity to lead a, quote, normal life as we define it. Mm-hmm. Have a job, live a quiet, peaceful, whatever life, don't kill anybody. And yet the people who are representative of that quote unquote normal world outlook are fucking with him. Right? Like Lily.
All except poor Robert Loggia.
Or Lila. Yeah, like Lila she's the previous movie's, you know, touchstone of normal, like, moral reality.
Yeah.
And she's, in this movie, fucking with his ability to attain that.
Another end of the spectrum of crazy, yeah.
Right. And so, of course, by the end of all this bullshit, he's going to be like, you know what? I tried, but I'm going to go back to my normal. That's way more fucking comfortable for me. So, fuck all y'all.
But yeah, the idea of trying to be normal again, quote unquote, a theme in this too that we didn't touch on much, but I loved so much about this was the idea of like being given a second chance.
Yeah.
And sort of
redemption's powerful thing.
Like how people who are maybe against that are just so scared of what if they kill again, and they aren't wrong because he does, you know, kill him. But at the same time, it's like, where does our moral imperative as humans lie in being able to forgive?
Yeah. Well, it gets real fucking broken by her right off the bat. I mean, she's just like the things that she'll do in order to get justice in her mind are completely immoral.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're an asshole. Like, come on.
Right.
And we love her so much in the first movie. It's so good to have that turn.
Yeah.
And then to have the person, her daughter, in between being like...
And you can imagine, though, like, you see her, you know, just sweet, caring for her sister, persistent, smart in the original, and then all of a sudden just going on this unrivaling, you know, spiraling down the hole of going more and more obsessed and insane. Right.
It's her version of going crazy.
But do you think it would then behoove her if she was, you know, with the courts on this one and Robert Loggia and saying everyone does deserve a second chance? Like, you know, her as the hardest person to go through that, is that like where you think our moral imperative lies in the end?
Oh man, I don't know. Like, she's a, I think, justifiably complex character. And so it's like, I understand why she would be doing what she's doing.
Right.
I do not agree with it.
I know. I think it's like it's hard. It's hard.
It's like when I you know, every once in a while I have, you know, a number of friends and my brother who have kids, and you sort of realize, oh shit, like once you make a connection to these other little humans, that you're like, oh, I have this weird instinct to be like, the things have changed in my outlook of the world. Like, I would do things that I didn't think I would do to protect those kids. Right. And so you get this, like I totally understand this impetus of her being like, this person took people I loved away, and I can't overcome the feelings or the motivation I have to not have that happen again.
Yeah.
So much so that I'll do horrible things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in the same way that it's like, if somebody, you know, imagining somebody doing something awful to like one of like my niece or nephew, it's a horrible thought. But it's like, oh, you go, oh yeah, no, I would fucking kill them.
Yeah.
Like, it would be really hard not to fucking kill somebody for who hurt somebody you care that much about, instinctually care about. And so it's like, it's very blurry. You go, well, yeah, I fucking get it. Of course she feels this way.
It's like I don't know, in situations like that, I think it's important. You have to be, you kind of want to default to the victim and just be respectful of them. Like, they're going to be recovering however they need to. But then there's this other question of like, yeah, but
morality is gray.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because Norman is a victim in his own right.
Yeah.
And so how do you, like, I mean, I guess that's why we're sort of collectively making.
This may stir some stuff out of this, but I don't think it's morally gray in that she was wrong to commit murder. in response to murder.
I agree. Like, I think we as a
I think we're there.
Society have decided as much as you want to fucking kill somebody or, you know, for doing something awful that hurt you or hurt somebody you love. Yes, you want that. Yes, you have the instinct or the thought.
It's just that
but we've agreed that's not okay.
It's we acknowledge like it's so deeply personal when you know happens to you that, as you said, you aren't wrong for your feeling though of you want to kill that guy.
No, and you shouldn't. Nobody can tell you that your feelings are wrong. Like they're your feelings. That's what they are. But how we deal with them and what we choose to do in response to them is important. And we largely agree, generally, on certain fairly black and white rules. That's why we're still around, right? Otherwise, we would have just blown ourselves up anyway a long time ago. We might still do it. Who knows? But you know,
I think forgiveness is a very powerful, thing, and
it would have been interesting to see her, and maybe she. I don't know. Maybe there's sort of moments or glimpses of that in this, but to see it even more magnified, her having to face the idea of forgiving Norman would be fucking super intense. I mean, instead, she got a knife through the mouth. But you know,
she may have honestly preferred that.
She kind of brought it on. You know?
Yeah.
So, pretty intense.
Also loved bloody rag stuffed in the toilet.
I wanted more. It's like, we're in color, dude. Let's get some more blood.
I mean, that was it. That was
the only one. I wanted more.
Loved that.
I think I'm a bit of a, what do you call it? I just love lots of pooling blood. I just love it. I just want to pour blood all over everything.
Like maybe there's some more in the next one. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of anything else I loved. What worked? His quote, "Mary, I'm becoming confused again, aren't I?"
Oh, so good.
That just says it all right there.
Yep.
Like he's lost his sanity by having to ask, "Am I crazy or not?" kind of thing. Oh, and then it's just so layered with her being like, "Yeah, but no," but not being allowed to tell him.
Right.
Anyway. I think that's most of everything I had at least written down, but...
You know what really worked for me? Is that shitty little mattress that the kids unroll in the basement and sit on and smoke a J. Man, and that kid, that is an exercise in watching two actors very uncomfortably touch each other. But I appreciated it.
Yeah.
You know, like his boob grab is just so awkward.
Oh yeah, what did you say about that?
I don't remember. I just was like, God, it's just such an odd, like he's clearly being told by the director, no, it's, you know, like just grab her boob.
I'm also trying to be high.
Yeah. Oh man, it's good. It's such a funny scene of him like stumbling on the wood pile.
Yeah.
It's borderline slapstick.
Yeah.
But, you know,
anyway,
it's fun.
Anthony Perkins. So good.
Yep.
Great. So we do what did not work for us?
I think we should.
All right. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
Do you have anything?
You know, Tim, I don't.
Okay.
I think for all of them, it's like there's the little part of me that wants to say there's kind of dated in a way, but like whatever. Like, I still like that about them, though. You know,
I have one that's technical, and it's an aesthetic thing. It's really just that. When he gets back to the house for the first, I get kind of why you do this or like what the choice was motivated by. I just don't like it. When he gets back to the house, it's very, oh shit, now I'm not remembering the actual terminology. It is fuzzy and blown out. the image. It's very soft. The light is really, really soft and shiny, and it's an aesthetic that is almost like they put a cheesecloth over the lens and made everything like really soft and fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I just don't like it. I'm like, it seemed wrong and weird for that to be coming back to that house and then get this very blown out, kind of dreamy look. I just was like, ah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I love that as this kind of, as I said, like Spielberg-y, dreamy from a past kind of like, he's seeing, let us see the good in it as he sees it first.
I think it tipped too far. I think if they had, ratcheted it back maybe 20%, I wouldn't have even thought anything of it and been like, cool. But I was like, and that's the only time it happens, really. Like the aesthetic gets very, very crisp after that for the rest of the movie.
There is, when first seeing it, and then the second time, I kept wanting to think, I kept being on the fence if that final twist was working for me or not, as if it was undermining just sort of everything somehow.
That's my other one.
Really? Okay.
I've
now though on the camp of like, no, it's just pushing it all further. Like it.
I get why you do it, and I'm not 100% against it.
I feel like it works even though it shouldn't, kind of thing. Is where
exactly. I'm at. It's on its face, it's a retcon, and it to me is undercutting the value of the first movie in a lot of ways. I mean, it's basically being like, yeah, well, yeah, you're crazy, but it's not because your mom was horrible or because you're implicit or inherently bad. It's because your other mom was crazy.
But then, like, what it does with him then killing her the same way, it sort of then says something about that. Yeah. It's like, actually, it's all the same no matter what. Right.
And, like, obviously, we just extensively talked about how that is working.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but in the moment, I do it. It's hard to not be like, okay.
It's hard.
It's a retcon.
I think I say that as in the moment, maybe the first time.
Yeah.
Wasn't crazy about, but it's really won me over now.
Well, and it's where I'm at with if you're taking this movie and you're saying, as the people who are making this series, you're going, well, we want to do more.
Yeah.
It's appropriate. You,
yeah.
You need that to get, well, you don't need it, but it is a way into the next movie.
But just like,
I have no idea what the next movie is, but.
Yeah, but just story stuff aside, or just sort of like obligatory twist stuff aside, as I guess I already said, it takes things further. I already said this, that idea of, it doesn't matter who the mother is at any given point. Like,
right.
And then we still get the nature versus nurture. Like we'll see in Psycho 4 or like, the show, is it called Bates Motel? Is the show like, so the sort of more relationship at the time between him and his mother. It doesn't matter, biological or not. It's just like...
That's true.
But that's the same thing. It does, because then that brings up the question that he has of like, am I, genetically evil? Is that a part of it? Right. So then it just makes all that even more interesting.
Yeah.
For me. So I don't know. It just this whole idea of Norman Bates is loaded. It didn't make it any less loaded.
Yeah. I'm, like I said, those are my only really two. They're like, I guess I mentioned kind of, I was very close to being like, okay, this movie, where are we going? Is it going to something happen? But then it does. So it was fleeting.
It's pacing at the same, like what I said, I liked that it was paced well at the same time. So you're like, maybe experience some moments where you're just like, where are we again? What's going on?
Yeah.
But very, very, very minor. Yeah.
You know what really didn't work for me? Mary goes to sleep with Norman holding a knife in the room with her. And I'm like, there's no way you would do that.
I didn't think I read the scene as she's awake the whole time.
Yeah.
And then she kind of...
she pops right up. She's like, Norman, please stop standing over me like a fucking nut.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, then things of note.
Yeah.
All right. Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
So many things of note.
I just loved the it's got to mention that the tagline, like the poster tagline for it, it's 22 years later and Norman Bates is finally coming home.
Oh, yeah. Finally, Norman.
There he is.
The world was really just clamoring for your return.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got?
Oh, I thought you sounded like you had a lot.
No, I just know you have a lot.
Oh. It was written by Tom Holland, who went on
Spider-Man. Oh, a different
Really?
Tom Holland?
Oh, the actor who plays... No, come on. Horror movie Tom Holland, Tim.
Oh, that one.
Directed, wrote Fright Night and Child's Play.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he
yeah.
wrote this film, Psycho 2.
Did Langoliers. He did Thinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
Some stuff.
He's from Poughkeepsie.
About the production. I was reading from this website. It was Feo Amante's horrorthriller.com, where during the production of it, you know, they had stills from this book that was all about the production of it to try to recreate everything, but it was like a challenge because there's nothing really in color from the original when trying to recreate the house how it was. So it was cool. You had the set decorator Jennifer Polito hunted down many of the actual props from the first film.
Cool.
They'd just been like collecting dust in a prop rental house somewhere. Let's see where they were covered. Oh yeah, and like some of the other props were covered were the original stuffed birds, the owl, the raven, the lamps in the motel, like all that good stuff. So it was just neat to hear that they actually found, you know, the original props, which...
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's an easy... Including... Oh, and except for... This was I reading in a New York Times article that came out at the time just about the release of this film, was that the famous shower head went missing during pre-production, and that that shower head wasn't just famous from Psycho, but it was used earlier that year in The Thing. Somewhere.
Whoa.
I don't know. I don't know where, when, or how, or if it was even screen used, but according to this New York Times article, is the same shower head that the Thing used.
In The Thing. Yeah.
I know.
That's interesting. Where the hell is it in The Thing?
I
I'll have to go look for it. I've got one.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have it, but Mary, played by Meg Tilly, younger sister of Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We thought so because we were like, man, she looks familiar. Oh, her name's Meg Tilly. Okay, yeah, they look very alike. You know Jennifer Tilly, everybody. You know her.
Yeah.
Bride of Chucky.
So the director, Richard Franklin, in the same Feo Amante's website, he was writing about how he's a quote-unquote disciple of Hitchcock's, where he like first saw Psycho when he was 12. He was a big fan of his, but at USC like got to meet Hitchcock. And then what did he say? He worked with him for some time or something like that. God, I should have known this. I should have read this better. Sorry, I thought like I could just read it off of it, but this is pretty detailed. Anyway, someone who was like very, but then I guess what was interesting to me about it, it was like someone who like clearly was sort of a protege almost of the original, but then at the same time says like, but it is its own thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about having to do something different. Like, yeah, what did he say? That this one, it's part horror film, part gothic melodrama, and part black comedy, all mixed together as far as the original. So now the second one is continuing in that sense.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thriller that works on one level as a fairly complex puzzle to be unraveled while keeping us emotionally involved in another level.
You see this? It was originally the film was intended as a made-for-cable. That would have been worse.
I saw it as like it was something about it was made, not that it was originally... Okay, where, yeah, there was a production fund of about, I think it was $18 million, where this producer is basically like working with Universal. I think it's like, okay, we have this fund, we'll make the ideas, we'll make 4 films with 18 million and have them be something that can be released theatrically, but then we're getting the money in assuming they'll do well on TV or can be sold for TV. So it was the kind of like, but then what they said is, but we don't want to make your sort of typical straight to TV type film.
Sure.
But then it just sort of came up as like, well, Psycho has always done well, so maybe it's about time we do that.
Yeah.
That's how it came to be.
I mean, dude, how are you gonna not the brand Psycho? Mm-hmm. Like, you're gonna dumb that down? Give me a fucking break. You'd be nuts.
I mean, I'm glad for these films that they were made. Otherwise, we probably would get a really, really crappy sequel remake made now. You know, if we only ever had the original, it'd be like what they were doing with Mary Poppins and Halloween and all this stuff. Yeah. Like,
yeah,
granted, those were all right, but still, they're requel, the reboot things.
Yes. I like this, that they didn't know that they were going to get Anthony Perkins back. And so they were going to recast potentially Christopher Walken. Was one of the people who was being considered.
Sure.
No thanks.
I thought this was cool that one of the producers on Psycho 2, Hilton Green, he worked for Hitchcock for 20 years, and he was the first assistant director on Psycho. So you had the first AD on the original coming back producing this one, which
that's cool.
It's so neat to me, just as sort of like, we're talking about how this is an extension of the original, how it's still a piece of it, just to have people working on it. I think that really does add in a kind of I don't know, almost ethereal, mystical, can't place it way of just, they were there, whatever was going on, they're kind of a connectivity thread.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
However that works, yeah.
I bet it was really, really interesting to be on that set.
Yeah, you hear from like Vera Miles and this producer just saying, wow, what a trip walking back on the set after 22 years.
That's cool.
And it looked exactly the same too.
What else?
That's all I have. I don't know. Well,
yeah. I
want to read up on more about it, watch some documentaries, hopefully in time for 3 and 4 and 1.
I can't believe they made a 4th one.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
All right. You got anything else for Psycho 2?
No, man. It was good.
Great. Good to hear. All right. Should we do our RecommenDEADtions?
Yeah. What do you got?
Okay. I thought I didn't have anything.
That's my job.
Yeah. No, looking at my Letterboxd diary, I watched the movie Glass finally.
Oh, did you?
I loved it.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I just couldn't get through it.
Oh, it was so good, Tim. I love this whole Shalamana essence that's going on.
Oh, man.
His new movies.
It was rough for me. I don't know. I just couldn't
so
get
many
into
just
it.
like fun little touches. It's like ridiculous, but it's good. It's like cool. It's fun.
Ooh, okay.
Well, whatever. I watched that a few weeks ago and I had a little heart next to it. So
wow. I mean, shocker, you and I have different taste.
We have a lot of similar taste.
Yeah, no, we do. Well, I've been so wrapped up in making my movie with my directing cohort, Shane Sabella. Shout out Shane Sabella. We made a movie. My brain has just only been on that. But we shot it as a Western. It's not a Western, but we shot it aesthetically to feel like a Western. So that got me thinking about Westerns that I've liked and seen, but then trying to connect it to horror. Made me remember Bone Tomahawk. Have you seen that?
No, I've heard of it.
It's pretty nutso. It's a Western that turns into a horror film. It's fun. So if you haven't seen that, it's worth watching.
Great.
Kurt Russell is.
Oh yeah,
he's fucking awesome. There are some talk about graphic kills. That movie gets real fucked up.
Cool.
So that's
that recommendation, yeah,
yeah.
Want to see it then?
Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Well, we know what next week's movie is already. It's going to be Psycho 3.
That's right.
Watch it. Enjoy your October.
Psycho 3, Lost in New York. I've known nothing about what Psycho 3 is.
Just Psycho 3. Well, you will soon enough, Tim. I'm excited to watch it with you and talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Dismembering Horror. In the meantime, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com on Instagram, Dismembering Horror, dismemberinghorror@gmail.com, and dishorrorpod on Twitter.
Wow, you've just blew through that.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep.
I could never do it. You can find Ryan at his website.
That's right. I'm at ryanmcduffie.com.
And I guess since we've talked about it, you can now find some of what Shane and I don't know what they call it, directing partner, I guess is what you would call him. Writing, directing, producing partner, whatever. We do have a website now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we're under Silent Thunder Films.
Great. I'll go to it.
1T.
Silent. So it's Silent Thunder.
So our company is called Silent Thunder Films, but the website we got was just 1T because it looked really weird with 2 T's next to each other.
I can just see you guys freaking out over that.
We were like, ugh,
looks weird.
The fuck?
I don't know. I think you should have gone with the 2 T's.
Well, we didn't.
Silent Thunder.
Yeah, Silent Hunder.
Yeah.
Or Silent Thunder.
Silent
you decide.
Thunder.
Films.com. And check it out. We'll start posting, stuff on there about the shoot. It was fun.
Cool.
Or, and same thing. It's the same Instagram or whatever. So, yeah. Cool.
Wonderful. Well, in closing, everyone, thank you so much for listening.
And we will see you next time.
Goodbye.